think the last of my talking days are here.
From Steve Gleason, who went from an NFL warrior to slowly losing his ability to speak because of ALS, to Walter Payton, who went from the league's Iron Man to fighting a rare, deadly liver disease, here are NFL legends you didn't know were battling some of the most brutal illnesses imaginable. Walter Payton. When you think about the greatest running backs to ever lace up a pair of cleats in the National Football League, the name Walter Payton doesn't just belong in the conversation, it belongs at the very top of the list. Born on July 25, 1954, in the small town of Columbia, Mississippi, Payton would go on to become one of the most beloved and respected athletes in the history of professional sports. They called him Sweetness, a nickname that captured not only the elegance and fluidity of his running style, but also the gentle, humble spirit of the man himself. From 1975 to 1987, Payton wore the navy blue and orange of the Chicago Bears, and during that remarkable 13-year career, he rewrote the record books in ways that seemed almost impossible. He amassed an absolutely staggering 16,726 rushing yards, a record that stood as the gold standard for years, and earned himself 9 trips to the Pro Bowl. His combination of speed, power, and elusiveness made him a nightmare for opposing defenses, but it was his legendary durability and toughness that truly set him apart. This was a man who simply refused to go down, who would bounce off tacklers and keep churning forward when lesser men would have crumbled. In 1993, Walter Payton received the ultimate recognition for his on-field excellence when he was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But what made Payton truly special wasn't just what he did on Sundays, it was who he was the other 6 days of the week. His off-field humility, his tireless community work, and his genuine love for the people around him amplified his legacy far beyond football. And then, in early 1999, at just 44 years old, Walter Payton stepped in front of the cameras and delivered news that shook the sports world to its core. He revealed that he had been diagnosed with primary sclerosing cholangitis, or PSC, a rare and devastating liver disease that causes inflammation and blockage of the bile ducts. According to the University of Illinois Health Walter Payton Liver Center, PSC affects only about 3 people out of every 100,000 annually. Walter Payton, this titan of football, this seemingly indestructible force of nature, had been struck by one of the rarest diseases imaginable. The condition progressed with frightening speed. By February of 1999, doctors made it clear that Payton's only hope for survival was a liver transplant. He needed a donor, and he needed one fast. But fate, it seemed, had one more cruel twist in store. While Walter waited desperately for a transplant, he developed bile duct cancer, cholangiocarcinoma, a devastating complication of PSC that immediately disqualified him from receiving a new liver. As ESPN reported, despite undergoing chemotherapy, despite making public appeals for organ donation that touched millions of hearts across the nation, Walter Payton lost his battle on November 1st, 1999. He was just 45 years old. But even in death, Sweetness continued to inspire. His family established the Walter and Connie Payton Foundation to promote organ donation awareness and fund PSC research. The University of Illinois honored his fight by naming their liver center after him. And perhaps most fittingly, the NFL renamed its most prestigious off-field honor, the Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year Award, a recognition that symbolizes character, courage, and perseverance in the face of hardship. As detailed in the AMA Journal of Ethics, his autobiography, Never Die Easy, emphasized living fully despite adversity. Walter Payton may have lost his battle with disease, but his legacy of sweetness lives on forever. While Payton's rare liver disease claimed his life in a matter of months, our next player has spent over a decade defying a diagnosis that doctors said would kill him within 5 years. Steve Gleason. For the city of New Orleans, that moment came on September 25, 2006, when a special teams player named Steve Gleason burst through the line and blocked a punt in the very first game back in the Superdome after Hurricane Katrina had devastated the city. As Sporting News documented, that single play, that one explosive moment, became a symbol of resilience, of rebirth, of a city refusing to surrender. Steve Gleason was born on March 19, 1977, in Spokane, Washington, and his path to NFL glory was anything but guaranteed. He went undrafted out of Washington State University, which meant that nobody, not a single team in the entire league, thought he was worth spending a draft pick on. But Gleason had something that couldn't be measured by scouts, an indomitable spirit and a relentless work ethic that would define everything he did. From 2000 to 2007, Gleason carved out a meaningful career as a safety for the New Orleans Saints, becoming a special team standout and earning the love of a city that embraced him as one of their own. When he retired in 2008, he could look back on a career career that, while not filled with individual accolades, was marked by memorable plays and genuine contributions to his team. But the real battle, the one that would define Steve Gleason's legacy far more than any blocked punt ever could, began in January of 2011. According to the official Team Gleason website, at just 33 years old, in what should have been the prime of his life, Gleason received a diagnosis that would terrify anyone: amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, commonly known as ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease.
I can't talk. I think the last of my talking days were here.
ALS is a progressive neurodegenerative disease that systematically destroys the motor neurons in the brain and spinal cord. It strips away the body's ability to move, to speak, to swallow, and eventually to breathe. The initial symptoms for Gleason were subtle: muscle twitches here, weakness there, but the diagnosis was devastating nonetheless. Doctors told him he had 2 to 5 years to live. That was over 13 years ago. Steve Gleason has defied every odds, shattered every expectation, and refused to surrender to a disease that has claimed so many others. Since 2014, he has relied on a ventilator to breathe and uses eye-tracking technology to communicate with the world. Let that sink in for a moment. This man types out his thoughts, one painstaking letter at a time, by moving his eyes. Together with his wife, Michael, Gleason founded Team Gleason in 2011, an organization dedicated to providing support, equipment, and life-enriching experiences to people living with ALS. The organization played a pivotal role in the 2014 ALS Ice Bucket Challenge, that viral phenomenon that raised over $100 million for ALS research. And Gleason's advocacy didn't stop there. His tireless efforts led directly to the passage of the Steve Gleason Act in 2021, a piece of legislation that ensures ALS patients have access to the communication devices they desperately need. Steve Gleason may no longer be able to block punts, but he's still fighting, and he's still winning. Gleason isn't the only NFL player who received an ALS diagnosis shortly after retirement. Another special team standout received the same devastating news just months after hanging up his cleats: Tim Shaw. Born on March 30th, 1984, in Clarence, New York, Tim Shaw built a professional football career through sheer grit and determination. According to his biographical records, Shaw was selected in the 6th round of the 2007 NFL Draft out of Penn State. He wasn't blessed with the physical tools of a first-round pick. What he had instead was an unwavering commitment to doing whatever it took to contribute to his team. Over the course of his 7-year career, Shaw played for the Carolina Panthers, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Chicago Bears, and finally, the Tennessee Titans. He became a special team stalwart, the kind of player that coaches absolutely love because they know he'll throw his body around with reckless abandon on kickoffs and punts. In 80 career games, Shaw recorded 70 tackles. Not eye-popping numbers, perhaps, but numbers that represent a man leaving everything he had on the field. His career peaked in Tennessee, where he earned the honor of serving as special teams captain. Shaw was just 30 years old when he revealed his diagnosis. The symptoms had begun with muscle weakness and unexplained twitching, warning signs that something was terribly wrong. Specialists confirmed the worst: ALS. The disease progressed with cruel efficiency. By 2017, Shaw was confined to a wheelchair, his body betraying him piece by piece. But Tim Shaw refused to let the disease take his voice, metaphorically speaking.
Since my diagnosis, life has been absolutely crazy. I don't think we have time for all that has happened. But I have to say that I have never felt so much love. I've had family move to be near me.
He published Blitz Your Life, a memoir that combined reflections on his football career with hard-won wisdom about facing adversity. Shaw has pursued experimental treatments, advocated tirelessly for research funding, and spoken at countless events to raise awareness about ALS. Some researchers have suggested that repetitive head trauma suffered during football careers may contribute to ALS in certain athletes, though the science remains complicated and the causation is still debated. What isn't debatable is the courage Shaw has shown in the face of this disease. In 2018, Shaw returned to Titans practice, not as a player, but as an inspiration. Sitting in his wheelchair on the sidelines, he motivated his former teammates in ways that no able-bodied coach ever could. As the Tennessee Titans documented, his emotional leadership was captured in the documentary A Titan Story, which showcased a man who refused to let his circumstances diminish his impact. The possible link between repetitive head trauma and neurological disease that Shaw's case raised would become impossible to ignore in the years that followed, especially after the shocking discoveries made in the brain of one of the NFL's most troubled stars. Aaron Hernandez. The story of Aaron Hernandez is, without question, the darkest and most troubling story on this list. Aaron Hernandez was born on November 6, 1989, in Bristol, Connecticut. He possessed football talent that was undeniable: explosive athleticism, soft hands, and an ability to find open space in defensive coverage. Selected by the New England Patriots in the 4th round of the 2010 NFL Draft out of the University of Florida, Hernandez quickly established himself as a dangerous weapon in one of the league's most potent offenses. Over 3 seasons in New England, Hernandez amassed 175 receptions and 18 touchdowns. He contributed to the Patriots' run to Super Bowl XLVI and seemed destined for stardom. But beneath the surface, something was deeply, terribly wrong. In June of 2013, Aaron Hernandez's life came crashing down when he was arrested for the murder of Odin Lloyd, a semi-professional football player who had been dating the sister of Hernandez's fiancée. In 2015, Hernandez was convicted and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He faced additional charges related to a 2012 double homicide, though he was acquitted of those charges just days before his death. On April 19, 2017, at the age of 27, Aaron Hernandez was found dead in his prison cell. He had taken his own life. What happened next would send shockwaves through the sports world and spark national conversations about football and brain health. According to Boston University's CTE Center, researchers examined Hernandez's brain and discovered something that stunned even the experts: severe chronic traumatic encephalopathy, stage 3 out of a possible 4. His brain showed significant atrophy, visible holes in the tissue, and extensive buildup of tau protein, damage that was, according to the researchers, unprecedented for someone his age. CTE is a degenerative brain disease caused by repeated impacts to the head. As NPR reported, CTE has been linked to aggression, impulsivity, depression, and profound mood disorders. Aaron Hernandez's life history included childhood trauma, documented concussions from his football career, and substance abuse, factors that may have exacerbated the effects of the brain damage he had sustained. His family filed a lawsuit against the NFL, alleging that the league had failed to adequately protect players from the dangers of head trauma. The case was settled in 2019. Hernandez's case was shocking because of the severity of his CTE at such a young age. But he wasn't the only young star whose brain would reveal devastating damage after death. Another Pro Bowl talent would be diagnosed posthumously just a few years later: Demaryius Thomas. He was Super Bowl champion, a 5-time Pro Bowler, one of the most talented wide receivers of his generation. Thomas had accomplished everything a football player could dream of accomplishing. And then, at the age of just 33, he was gone. Born on Christmas Day, December 25, 1987, in Montrose, Georgia, Demaryius Thomas overcame a childhood that would have broken many others. His mother and grandmother were both imprisoned on drug charges when he was young, forcing him to navigate the world without the maternal guidance that so many of us take for granted. But Thomas channeled that adversity into fuel, becoming a star at Georgia Tech and eventually being selected by the Denver Broncos with the 22nd overall pick in the 2010 NFL Draft. Over the next decade, Thomas established himself as one of the premier receivers in professional football, playing primarily in Denver, with brief stints in Houston, New England, and New York. He accumulated 724 career receptions and 63 touchdowns. He caught passes from Payton Manning during the legendary quarterback's final seasons and earned a Super Bowl 50 ring when the Broncos defeated the Carolina Panthers in February 2016. After retiring from football, Thomas pursued coaching opportunities and philanthropic work. He had so much life left to live. And then, on December 9, 2021, Demaryius Thomas was found dead in his home. According to ESPN's report on the autopsy, the cause was complications from a seizure disorder. The seizures had become a terrifying part of Thomas's post-football life. They began after a 2019 car accident that caused significant head trauma. But the problems went deeper than that single incident. Thomas's family had noticed troubling changes in him: memory loss, paranoia, increasing isolation from the people who loved him. These were the hallmarks of CTE. The Concussion Legacy Foundation confirmed that post-mortem examination of Thomas's brain revealed stage 2 CTE, the result of years of head impacts sustained during his football career. The seizure disorder that ultimately killed him may have been connected to this brain damage. Thomas's death also highlighted a troubling medical disparity. Black men have significantly higher mortality rates from seizure disorders than other demographic groups, raising important questions about healthcare access and awareness. In death, Demaryius Thomas continued to contribute. His family made the decision to donate his brain for research, hoping that what scientists learned from studying it might help future athletes avoid the same fate. Tributes poured in from across the football world, including from Payton Manning, who spoke movingly about his former teammates' talent and kindness. Thomas's family noticed personality changes and cognitive decline before his death, warning signs that another Pro Bowl receiver's loved ones would also recognize in the final years of his life. Vincent Jackson, standing 6 feet 5 inches tall with long arms, elite body control, and the ability to make contested catches in traffic, Vincent Jackson was a matchup nightmare throughout his 12-year NFL career. But behind the on-field dominance, a devastating battle was being waged inside his mind. Born on January 14, 1983, in Colorado Springs, Colorado, Jackson attended Northern Colorado before being selected by the San Diego Chargers in the second round of the 2005 NFL Draft. Over the next 6 seasons in San Diego and 5 more with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Jackson compiled numbers that placed him among the premier receivers of his era: 540 career receptions, 57 touchdowns, and 3 trips to the Pro Bowl. When Jackson retired following the 2016 season, he threw himself into philanthropic work. His Jackson in Action 83 Foundation focused on providing support for military families, a cause that was deeply personal to him. By all outward appearances, Vincent Jackson was transitioning successfully into post-football life. The truth was far more complicated. On February 15, 2021, Vincent Jackson was found dead in a Florida hotel room. He was 38 years old. The autopsy revealed that chronic alcohol use had been the immediate cause of death. His blood alcohol level was measured at 0.28%, more than 3 times the legal limit for driving. Further examination revealed significant damage to his liver, heart, and kidneys, all consistent with prolonged alcohol abuse. But that wasn't all. When researchers examined Jackson's brain, they discovered Stage 2, CTE, the same degenerative brain disease that had been found in so many other former football players. Jackson's widow painted a heartbreaking picture of her husband's final years. She described cognitive decline, deepening depression, and an increasing dependence on alcohol as a way to cope with symptoms he may not have even fully understood. There had been warning signs, DUI arrests, erratic behavior, but the full extent of his struggles remained hidden until it was too late. Vincent Jackson's family made the courageous decision to donate his brain for research, hoping that scientists could learn something that might help others. His story is a sobering reminder that CTE doesn't just affect cognition, it can fundamentally alter behavior, driving people toward destructive coping mechanisms that ultimately compound the damage. While the previous stories dealt with diseases that attack the brain from within, our next player faced a different kind of threat, one that grew silently on the outside of his body for years before doctors finally caught it. Trent Williams. Not every story on this list ends in tragedy. Some stories are about survival, about resilience, about catching a terrible disease before it's too late and fighting back with everything you've got. The story of Trent Williams is one of those stories. Born on July 19, 1988 in Longview, Texas, Trent Williams has established himself as arguably the greatest offensive tackle of his generation. A first-round pick out of Oklahoma in 2010, Williams spent his first decade in Washington before joining the San Francisco 49ers in 2020. His resume speaks for itself: 11 Pro Bowl selections, multiple All-Pro honors, and a reputation as the kind of blindside protector that quarterbacks dream about. But in 2019, Trent Williams' career and his life nearly came to a catastrophic end. He had first noticed a growth on his scalp back in 2013. Team medical staff examined it and determined it wasn't a cause for concern. For 6 years, Williams trusted that assessment. For 6 years, the growth continued to spread. Finally, in 2019, Williams sought a second opinion. The diagnosis was terrifying: dermatofibrosarcoma protuberans, commonly known as DFSP, a rare form of skin cancer. And it had grown to the point where it was just weeks away from potentially invading his skull and reaching his brain. The surgery to remove the cancer was extensive. Surgeons had to remove approximately 30% of Williams' scalp. The procedure required skin grafts, 300 stitches, and 75 staples. The recovery was grueling, and Williams sat out the entire 2019 season, citing a fundamental breakdown of trust with Washington's medical staff. But Trent Williams is not the kind of man who stays down. By 2020, he had not only recovered, he had returned to elite form with his new team in San Francisco, earning All-Pro recognition and proving that the cancer had taken nothing from his game. Today, Williams partners with the Sarcoma Foundation to advocate for early detection and proper diagnosis. His message is simple but powerful. Trust your instincts, seek second opinions, and don't let anyone dismiss concerns about your health. As Williams continues to pursue a Super Bowl championship, he does so with the perspective of a man who knows just how fragile life can be and just how precious every moment on the field truly is. Williams was fortunate that his cancer was caught in time. Decades earlier, another player wasn't so lucky, and his battle with a different form of cancer would inspire one of the most beloved sports films ever made. Brian Piccolo. Long before CTE became a national conversation, long before many of the players on this list were even born, there was Brian Piccolo, a running back whose brief life and tragic death touched millions of hearts and forever changed how America thought about courage, friendship, and facing mortality. Brian Piccolo was born on October 31st, 1943, in Pittsfield, Massachusetts. Unlike the highly recruited stars who dominate today's NFL draft coverage, Piccolo went completely undrafted after his college career at Wake Forest. No team thought he was worth selecting, but Piccolo signed with the Chicago Bears as a free agent and, through determination and hard work, earned a roster spot. From 1966 to 1969, Piccolo served as a backup running back in Chicago, rushing for 927 career yards, despite limited starting opportunities. He wasn't a superstar by any statistical measure, but he earned the respect of his teammates through his tireless work ethic and infectious personality. What made Piccolo's story truly remarkable, though, was his friendship with Gale Sayers. In an era when racial tensions divided much of American society, Piccolo, who was white, and Sayers, who was black, became roommates on road trips, breaking barriers simply by treating each other as brothers. Their bond transcended football. In November of 1969, at just 26 years old, Brian Piccolo received devastating news. He had been diagnosed with embryonal cell carcinoma, an aggressive form of testicular cancer that had already metastasized to his lungs. A tumor the size of a grapefruit was removed from his chest, and he underwent intensive chemotherapy at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center in New York. Despite the best efforts of his doctors, Brian Piccolo died on June 16, 1970. He was 26 years old. Piccolo's death from cancer was tragic, but not entirely unexpected given his diagnosis. What happened to our next player, however, came without any warning at all, and remains the most shocking moment in NFL history. Chuck Hughes. October 24th, 1971, was supposed to be just another Sunday in the NFL. The Detroit Lions were hosting the Chicago Bears at Tiger Stadium in a late-season matchup that had no particular playoff implications. Nobody could have imagined that they were about to witness the most tragic moment in league history. Chuck Hughes was born on March 2nd, 1943, in Philadelphia, Texas, a fourth-round draft pick out of Texas Western, now known as UTEP. Hughes had played for the Philadelphia Eagles from 1967 to 1968 before being traded to the Lions. He was a backup wide receiver, a depth player who caught just 15 passes over 38 career games. By NFL standards, he was anonymous. With just 62 seconds remaining in the game and the Lions trailing, Hughes ran a pass route downfield. The play didn't come to him. As he jogged back toward the huddle, he suddenly clutched his chest and collapsed to the turf. Players from both teams immediately recognized that something was terribly, horribly wrong. This wasn't a football injury. Chicago Bears linebacker Dick Butkus, one of the most feared defenders in NFL history, frantically waved for medical personnel to rush onto the field. Doctors attempted to revive Hughes right there on the grass, while thousands of fans watched in stunned silence. Chuck Hughes was pronounced dead at the hospital. He was 28 years old. The autopsy revealed that Hughes had suffered a heart attack caused by severe coronary artery disease. A blood clot had blocked blood flow to his heart. What made the findings even more shocking was the discovery that Hughes had experienced a previous heart attack at some point, one that had gone completely undetected. To this day, Chuck Hughes remains the only player in NFL history to die during a game. His death had nothing to do with a hit or a collision. It was the result of an undiagnosed heart condition, likely influenced by family history. Hughes's undetected heart condition proved fatal, but hidden diseases don't always end in tragedy. Our final player managed to compete at the highest level for over a decade, while battling a chronic illness that most people never even knew he had. Matt Light. When you think about the grueling physical demands of playing offensive line in the NFL, the constant collisions, the need to maintain extraordinary size and strength, the punishment absorbed play after play, it's hard to imagine doing it while simultaneously battling a chronic illness that attacks your digestive system. Matt Light didn't just imagine it, he lived it. Born on June 23, 1978 in Greenville, Ohio, Matt Light was selected by the New England Patriots in the second round of the 2001 NFL Draft out of Purdue University. Over the next next 11 seasons, he would establish himself as one of the premier left tackles in franchise history, protecting Tom Brady's blind side and helping the Patriots capture 3 Super Bowl championships. But throughout that remarkable career, Light was fighting a battle that most fans never knew about. In 2001, his rookie year, he was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, a chronic inflammatory condition that affects the digestive tract. Crohn's causes severe abdominal pain, fatigue, weight loss, and a host of other debilitating symptoms that make everyday life difficult, let alone competing at the highest level of professional football. For Light, managing the condition required constant vigilance. Medications, carefully controlled diet, and close monitoring became facts of daily life. But in 2004, the disease escalated dramatically. Light underwent surgery to remove 13 inches of his intestine, and complications from that procedure nearly killed him. Before his career was over, he would undergo 14 surgeries related to his Crohn's disease. And yet somehow, Matt Light kept playing. He earned 3 Pro Bowl selections and remained a cornerstone of one of the most successful franchises in NFL history. Every time he stepped on the field, he was demonstrating what it means to persevere through chronic illness. Thanks for watching. Check out other cards on the screen.